Dr. Mustafa Thomas, as the consultant for the Climate Change Adaptation and Sustainable Energy Project, chaired the orientation session which provided the first formal insights to the objectives and methods to be used by Christian Aid, its lead partner, Women's Advocacy Network for Environmental Sustainability, and other co-implementing civil society partners, Civil Society Advocacy Network on Climate Change and the Environment, Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, and the Environmental Forum for Action. Dr. Thomas described the extremely real threat posed by climate change and thus the rationale for everyone to tackle the problem. He said from now until the spring of 2024, intensive efforts were underway by the project partners to work with selected communities in the Western Rural District and Pujan District to find ways of coping with climate change and identifying pathways to sustainable energy that will reduce consumption of fossil fuels. The representatives who will be engaged during the process traveled to the orientation session from 6 targeted communities in Western Area Rural District to learn how they could support the goal of the project to improve their adaptability to climate change and sustainable energy use. Deputy Chief Administrator of the Western Area Rural District Council, Alhassan Yila, said climate change was evident along the length and breadth of the district. He reminded the gathering of the mudslide which took place at Regent, recent high tide flooding at Tombo, erosion at Bridget, and the widespread disruption of water quality and water supply due to encroachment on the forest greenbelt. Mr. Yila said as representatives of the people, they embraced the project as a chance to take ownership of the problem and become part of the solution, both immediately and into the long term. Chief Environment Director in the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, Mr. Edward Bendu, noted that 300,000 Sierra Leoneans have been directly impacted by flooding over the past 4 decades and asked the communities to consider themselves fortunate recipients of efforts aimed towards the reduction of their suffering. He said their food and water security is being threatened by climate change, but underlined illegal deforestation and improper land use, along with the alarming misuse of waterways and catchments for the depositing of pollution, as practices where communities could impact directly with a change of behavior. Mr. Bendu said the people in Western Area Rural District must be made familiar with the importance of protected areas and a possible way to link with the Disaster Management Agency to address human activity and the root causes of disaster, which are directly affected by climate change. He described the project as timely and commended Christian Aid for their assistance.
This is going to add to the contributions towards adapting to climate change. WONES is a long-standing organization. It's a women's network for environmental sustainability. They are being funded here by Christian Aid. So we, on our own side from the ministry, we applaud this initiative because this is one that we believe all women's organizations and other NGOs in the country should more or less emulate.
Ramatu Masakwe from the Environment Protection Agency warned that Sierra Leone is no exception to the effects of climate change. Mrs. Masakwe said the EPA's policies embrace gender, and as an agency they would support advocacy and other measures which include a focus on women whose livelihoods are directly threatened by climate change. Gifty Johnson from the Ministry of Gender and Children's Affairs provided a real-life account of a child saved from a flood disaster to illustrate the vulnerability of children and their mothers when it concerns escaping from the outcomes of climate change. Christian Aid Country Director Mattia Dimo said the Climate Change Adaptation and Sustainable Energy Project was a test case for communities on how behaviors can change in order to reduce the acceleration of climate change impacts. He described this as a learning case to design the most effective program possible and encouraged close collaboration between the communities, the lead partner, district authorities, and the civil society organizations with proven advocacy capabilities.
Our hope is that this project will contribute to broader efforts by the ministry and other actors to respond to the serious effects of climate change on vulnerable communities, on vulnerable people, women, people living with disability, and that together we'll be able to really start a movement that will, reduce the impact of climate change in our communities, but also build community level resilience to climate change effects.
The Christian Aid Country Director proposed a wider consortium for the support of government policy and initiatives that can resonate with impacts for those who are suffering from climate change. Director and the lead partner, Mrs. Gertrude Karimu from the Women's Network for Environmental Sustainability, was keen to focus on marginalized women who have been proven as those most likely to suffer from the effects of climate change.
We are expecting them going back to their communities, explain to them the goal and objective of the project, because every activities that we are going to undertake was highlighted, and everything was highlighted, and they know about it. I'm expecting them going back to their communities, sensitize their people, and actually tell them that this project is coming and that they should plan for it, and the actions that we are taking, they should take it seriously.
The project partners interacted with the project beneficiaries through a question and answer session that created knowledge, provided clarifications, and indicated possible areas of further intervention that were noted by CCASE, the Project for Climate Change Adaptation and Sustainable Energy.